Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 19 years of profiling IT mission programs in the federal government. This is our fourth annual Profiles in Excellence Chief Data Officer program, which will be coming to you from the virtual studios of WTOP and the Federal News Network. I'm Luke McCormack, and during today's show, we will discuss big data analytics and artificial intelligence trends and strategies at numerous government agencies and hear from the key leaders making them happen. With me on today's show are Lisa Rosenmerkel, Chief Data Officer, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Dr. Naomi Adenia, Chief Data Officer, Drug Enforcement Administration, Trang Tran, Deputy Chief Data Officer, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Kristen Nero, Director, National Security Group at Databricks, Monica McEwen, Managing Director, Data and AI, Deloitte Consulting, and Don Wiggins, Principal Solutions Architect at Equinix. It's hard to imagine that just a few years ago, we were still trying to define the role of the Chief Data Officer and what they did and where they stood in the organization, et cetera. We're well past that at this point, and we are knee-deep in all kinds of data and data analytics. And if I recall, at this point in time in the agencies, everyone's looking at the transitions, whatever type of transition that's going to be. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Take us inside the building. What is going on in regards to preparation for the upcoming transitions? What type of technology, different use of technologies? Give us a glimpse across the landscape of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, happy to. At VA, there's, as with any other agency, there's tons of transition plans, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. With any administration transition, you don't quite know what's going to happen at this stage in the game. So I think at this point, it's wise that we make investments in sort of foundational infrastructure, that sort of evergreen efforts that are going to be valid no matter what the new administration priorities are. And so, as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Data Officer at VA. And so in that space, it looks like making sure that we have the right data in place to make all of those things happen. Kirsten Dalbo, who's the CEO of FERC and also the lead of our Federal Chief Data Officer Council, she often says data powers mission. And I think that's exactly right. So setting up the agency for success is really important space for me. And so investments in that space tend to look like, investing in our operations and making things more efficient and improving better outcomes for our veterans that are going to make any administration happy and that they can leverage. So specifically, PACT Act was signed in 2022, which was in the middle of this administration. But we've made some really strategic investments in using data and capturing data in that space that I think is going to be really helpful for many, many administrations to come. Specifically, we've leveraged data and outreach in a way that we never have before. So ensuring we're being very targeted in our outreach to veterans who are eligible for this massive expansion in eligibility and providing them very specific information that they need to make the decisions on their health care. And then also using data on the back end to ensure we're measuring how they're receiving that information, if they're acting upon it, so we can continue to use our resources as efficiently as possible. And so I think those sorts of investments where we're capturing really good data, gathering really high quality data has been really helpful. And we know that will serve whatever the priorities of the next administration are.
Fantastic, and no doubt big macro questions that get asked during those various activities, and Veterans Affairs being such a huge organization, a very important organization. We really appreciate everything that you're doing for the vets. Naomi, how about at the Drug Enforcement Administration? I would love for you to give us just a top line of everything the DEA does, right? Everyone thinks about certain things of the DEA. Let's make sure that they know everything that they do from a top line. And then same question, let's talk about sort of get us in the building there and the preparation, the various technologies that you're using to enhance that capability.
Yeah, thank you so much and good afternoon to everybody. So the Drug Enforcement Administration has a diverse and dynamic mission as a federal law enforcement agency. So we're at the intersection of criminal justice, national security, and public health. So the DEA strives to protect communities and save lives. So with regards to the transition, AI, or I like to think of as generally emerging technology, is all about opportunity. So in my role, it's about unlocking this opportunity to prepare for the transition. And I think about first our workforce and their needs, and then I consider data and the environment that's needed to support their mission. So first, our workforce is our greatest asset. So I see every single one of them as somebody that interacts with data and is part of essentially my team. So my role is to empower them, but I'm also very dependent on them. So they're really attuned and sensitive to our data needs and our priorities, and they're the keys to unlocking all kinds of opportunities for DEA. So I like to listen, interpret, co-design, and try to find the right match between a requirement and a solution. And the DEA model that we have right now is to essentially empower the workforce and have them be the owners and managers of solution, because then that fuels adoption of emerging technology across the enterprise. So then on the data and the environment front, technology is evolving faster than ever. So at DEA, it's about being skilled at utilizing existing resources and adapting to the changing landscape, whether it's AI trends, technology, innovation. And I have a tremendous bias towards progress. So the goal is to support continuous growth and convergence between DEA's workforce, data, and technology. One of the areas that we've made a lot of progress in Revolutionized DEA is on our geospatial program. So you can imagine the synergies between that and law enforcement. So we've developed relevant customized training. We've worked with a lot of senior executives across DEA to allow them to ensure that the people we train immediately have and can apply this new knowledge to their daily work. And so in 2 years, we've have an enterprise-wide platform. We've built out data pipelines that automate and ETL the data ingestion. And we're working towards a geospatial common operating picture. So these are all things that are definitely transforming the way we do business and putting us in a good position, regardless, of whatever happens in a transition.
Sounds exciting, and we really appreciate all the activity going on there to position yourself to really unlock those capabilities and enable the Drug Enforcement Administration's mission. Trang, you have a huge mission, multi-mission, and collect an incredible amount of data over there at the Customs and Border Protection. Give us a top line on where you all stand as far as positioning yourselves to unlock these various capabilities and building out your Chief Data Officer organization to take on all these various activities.
So thank you and good afternoon. CUP has always adopted technologies needed to positively impact the mission. So before AI became the technology that it is today, we've had the opportunity to leverage many foundational technologies, including various that's helped evolve AI into the space that we have today, including computer vision, machine learning, natural language processing, and object character recognition tools to help manage the volume, variety, and velocity of the data that encompasses our 24/7, 365 border security and lawful trade and travel operations. CBP, like most organizations, large and small, relies on data as an important asset. Each of these individual transactions have hundreds of data points associated with it. That is a tremendous amount of data that we collect on a daily basis. And to effectively harness the key insights from this data in a timely manner is a big job for our office here at CBP, for the Chief Data Office, but it is invaluable to our nation's security and to our ability to fulfill our mission. So similar to what Naomi spoke about in terms of artificial intelligence, CBP is leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to impact multiple mission areas. And these technologies help us in countless ways. But I just want to highlight a few ways that the technology is assisting us. So for example, combing through data to find anomalies and items of interest in all types, creating these efficiencies and reducing redundancies in multiple work areas, and automating routine tasks performed by our great personnel, which allows them to focus on their critical thinking skills, on the important enforcement actions of our mission. So bottom line, AI and data is a hugely powerful tool that will help us to more effectively and efficiently do what we do on a daily basis, right? So AI enhances the speed and effectiveness of our officers' ability to detect anomalies in cargoes, as well as baggages, small packages, mails, you name it, vehicles. It's making a difference in stopping these illicit drug substances like fentanyl at the border. So nationwide, so far this year alone, inspection referrals for these AI/ML models to CUP officers had led to 240 seizures, which include thousands of pounds of cocaine, heroin, heroin, and fentanyl. And then not only that, but AI/ML in our operations, CUP uses more than 370 large-scale and more than 4,000 small-scale non-intrusive inspections to help scan the cargo and packages at ports of entry. So to say that technology is helping us push our mission forward is really key.
Yeah, it's, you all, for decades, we've been collecting just petabytes of data, and now we finally have the technology that will allow us to really unlock some of these capabilities. Kristen, let's go to you at Databricks. You have the opportunity to sort of stripe across all these various agencies and see this type of capability being used, your technology enhancing these capabilities. Give us a top line on what you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think, in general, the opportunity of collaboration and really consolidation with the cloud, right? Bringing all these disparate systems together in a central repository has been probably the most fundamental change that I think our clients and the agencies that we're collaborating with have leveraged. And in that natural kind of opportunity for consolidation, there's also the opportunity, to your point, Luke, there's, billions of terabytes of data out there, right? But most agencies in a previous world were only able to really gain insight out of their structured data, right? And our kind of methodology is, let's free the data, let's leverage open source so that you're future-proofing your architectures, right? And let's bring all the data together, add governance on top of it, so you're getting your fine-grained access control, you're getting your lineage, you're able to understand where the data is coming from, has it been corrupted, and how do we basically leverage it in a true AI instance, an ML model that is leveraging data across the agency or across the mission group, right? And it's, I think, really just from the beginning, the ability to leverage cloud architecture with infinite scalability and ultimately cost performance that allows our customers to do this at a scale and a cost performance that they haven't been able to achieve previously. I also think that we see a lot of our customers implementing a solid multi-cloud strategy to, again, future-proof their architectures. And it's important to be able to do that, to be able to not only run workloads at their most efficient platform, but also be able to, again, future-proof yourself so that there's no vendor lock-in, not using proprietary schemas, some of the foundational things of the traditional data warehousing world that the cloud and open source has been able to kind of break down those barriers.
Yeah, and no doubt, very important regarding the vendor lock-in to the federal agency. So we really appreciate you highlighting that as well. Monica at Deloitte. Deloitte is an absolute global powerhouse in this area. There's no question about it. You've been at this for some time and completely understand this space. Give us your perspective of, as you're working across the various agencies, what's the uptick of this type of capability and adoption of these various technologies and techniques that you're working with the agencies on?
Yeah, good afternoon, Luke. Great to see you again. I think AI and generative AI are top of mind for all of the agencies that we work with. And we're in the midst of this massive tech revolution, right? As Naomi mentioned, there's new tech innovations almost on a daily basis. So as we think about generative AI, in order to make it effective and safe, it's critically important that agencies first prioritize their data foundation. And there's a myriad of challenges with data. As you mentioned, Luke, the government has petabytes of data. It's often in silos, requires a lot of manual intervention, and that often leads to human error. And so the first focus really needs to be on the data. And what we're seeing is that agencies are really thinking through how they can modernize their data environment to overcome some of these challenges. As Krista mentioned, taking advantage of these cloud data platforms, which then enable not only a scalable data environment, but also allow agencies to take advantage of the advancements that we're seeing in things like data quality and data governance, really making sure that the data is accurate, complete, and discoverable before taking advantage of the AI capabilities that also exist. And ultimately focusing on this data foundation then will enable agencies to leverage AI to really power the mission.
Cleaning up that data is very important, and just the onslaught of unstructured data, as I think it was Kristen that was pointing out, very important, as there's a lot of both activities going on and a lot of opportunities once we get it to a point where we can really enable these different types of technologies. Don, how about at Equinix? Where does Equinix fit into this AI, ML, CDO play?
Well, thanks, Luke, for the opportunity to be here today. So I like to think of Equinix as sort of a place where a lot of these activities, where we can enable sort of democratize access to some of these advanced capabilities. Interestingly enough, working with probably one of Monica's extended teams, Deloitte, actively, and doing just that, creating proof of concept environments where federal agencies, public sector writ large, can come in and kick the tires and sort of evaluate these capabilities, not only from a speeds and feeds perspective, but also more holistically, what are some of the governance and regulatory compliance considerations and zero trust architecture and all those different elements that come into play with secure and competent data custodianship, from start to finish. Summarily, basically, we'd like to think of ourselves as sort of the nexus of where we can enable those activities for our customers.
Having that common platform and the access to this capability, a very important part of the overall picture to make these things happen. All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about AI, ML, chief data officers, all things included. I want to go up to you, Naomi. Let's talk about specific implementations. Maybe we could hook it to the customer experience, right? I think about the various customer experience opportunities as we start to structure this data or stitch this data together, make it available for an experience. Talk to us about that perspective.
Absolutely. So I'm biased, but I think being a federal CDO is one of the best jobs in the government. So we get
No way. Come on.
We get to bring data.
I'm shocked to hear this.
I know, in an actionable way to customers. So both internal and external to our agencies.
Good catch.
So it's really rewarding. And I think to Monica's point, I think of my customers, especially the ones internally, they're critical to the goal of cleaning up and improving our data quality to unlock more AI and emerging technology. So in order to do this really well at DEA, what we have done is we basically use a discovery process that positions users and their needs at the forefront of design and development. And that includes essentially determining where's our data, what is the state of our data, how can we improve it to then be able to utilize it. So we convene these diverse Tiger teams that includes agents, intel analysts, diversion investigators, chemists, because as Luke, you mentioned earlier, DEA has a very diverse mission. So with any solution, we basically establish this continual process improvement, and then that really empowers them and gives them ownership to set up an environment that fuels adoption of the use of these solutions across the enterprise. So one of the most visible kind of partnerships with how we've done this is to develop a unified data-driven reporting system that empowers our special agents in charge, so we call them SACs, across 240 domestic and 93 foreign offices. This enables them to make decisions across all kinds of things, including enforcement, community outreach and prevention, budget, staffing, compliance, public affairs, just to name some. And the idea actually originated from one of our divisions, where this past December, one of the SACs showed me his vision. And it was literally a PowerPoint slide where he had basically taken like screenshots of different dashboards together. And I'm like, we can do a lot better. So by the end of January, my team had actually developed a functional prototype, shared it out with all the SACs. And it's doing what Monica suggested, which is how can we improve all of the data, make sure it's that gold standard of what's going to allow all of our leadership to make data-driven decisions. And we keep up the monthly Tiger team. So we only, after all iteration, right, it has to continue.
No better ideas than that from the folks that are out there using the data or trying to get access to the data. So I love the power to the people, so to speak. Well, you referenced Monica a couple of times, so we'll go to Monica. There's no doubt that you have hundreds of use cases out there that you're experiencing across the various interagencies. You want to give us an example of one that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, sure. And maybe I might do two, Luke, if that's okay. One
Sure.
from sort of.
I think we got an extra minute or two.
All right. One thing that we saw during COVID with the state agencies that we work with is really an advancement in taking advantage of these modern cloud-based data platforms. It was really a driver because states needed access to real-time or near real-time information and data sharing. So the states were able to stand up these platforms really in a matter of days because of the criticality of them at the time to be able to share the critical health information across the states. And so, for example, as PPE and hospital beds were sparse, they were able to access this information across the state to be able to identify the areas that were most in need. And what we've seen is that this was really a driver with the states that we work with for data modernization. And they've now expanded the use of these modern cloud-based data platforms for additional use cases. And it was really that catalyst for change. Then on the federal side, Trang mentioned some of the inspections that CBP does, and we're seeing a really strong advancement in leveraging AI for unstructured data. So, for example, we're seeing the use of computer vision to help support site inspections. Think of this as perhaps Department of Transportation or local state transportation entities using computer vision to look at infrastructure such as roads and bridges, or think of FEMA using computer vision to help support disaster recovery. And this is really allowing agencies to speed the pace at which they're able to respond to potential disaster recovery and or being able to make sure that they're providing the right resources to the places that need them most.
Fantastic, and a couple of excellent use cases. Thank you very much. Lisa, I'm going to jump up to you. I know there's just hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of internal employees at Veterans Affairs, and there's also many, many of those vets out there that you serve. Would you like to give us a use case or two in regards to using this data and enhancing the data with these technologies and really giving those customers the experience that they're looking for?
Yeah, Luke, as you mentioned, we are serving millions and millions of veterans. And as Naomi pointed out, we definitely have internal customers as well. But because of our role as America's largest integrated healthcare provider, it makes a lot of sense that we have a lot of focus on AI applications in providing the best outcomes in healthcare for our veterans. In total, we have about 9 million enrollees at VA, which means those people, all 9 million, rely on VA in whole or in part for their healthcare, which is a responsibility we take very seriously. And with that awesome responsibility comes a lot of data, frankly. And so we are really uniquely positioned to spin up some homegrown AI applications to really work through the data and partner with academia and nonprofits to figure out how we can best leverage that data to provide the best healthcare outcomes. And so, for example, we have an ongoing effort with Harvard in which we're leveraging about 50,000 chest CTs to determine if we can predict cardiovascular events and lung cancer. And that's an ongoing effort that we're really uniquely positioned to do. So we're very happy to be able to participate in those sorts of things. And then, of course, we also procure things on the open market. So very open to any sort of AI innovations that help us use the tools we already have and make them more effective. For example, there's a really well-known tool called GI Genius, which helps us make colonoscopies more effective in predicting and preventing colorectal cancer. So we are very passionate about leveraging AI to help improve the quality of life for our veterans.
That's fantastic. Again, another sort of example of data collection, if you will, from various X-rays, et cetera, and using this capability, similar to what I think CBP does in regards to looking for anomalies, right? Which is just a fantastic example. Thank you very much for that. Kristen, how about at Databricks? I'm sure you have plenty of use cases of where you're experiencing unique capabilities that are being unlocked in these various agencies, perhaps using your technology.
Yeah, I think honestly what the women of this panel have done such a great job is the CDO shops, the CTO shops of agencies have set the foundation of their data, right? And so now the data is open, it's available, it's in real time, it's ready for insight, right? So as mission unfolds, they're able to respond, right? And I think one example of where we see this every day is with asylum visas, right? And being able to react quickly to to world events and have customers able to receive the asylum visas that they need. And if you don't have the data ready and available, governed, right, then it's impossible to meet that mission. I think Monica touched on it as well at FEMA, right? Being able to respond in an instant to a disaster, you have to have the data ready, available, and prepared for insight, right? And then also govern so that you can prove the trustworthiness of those decisions.
A very good point you make, that the data must be available sort of at the ready for any type of incident, including when people are seeking asylum, which is a very time-sensitive type situation oftentimes. So really do appreciate that. Trang, how about over at Customs and Border Protection? Lots of different activities going on over there. You touched on some of them. You want to highlight one or two that sort of enhancing the capability of your customers?
Oh, absolutely. So as mentioned earlier at CEP, we utilize several technologies such as mobile applications and AI/ML in support of improving the customer experience with CEP and the services that we provide. So interacting directly with the people we serve is an integral part of our mission work and includes interactions in both the customs and border protection aspect, as well as the trade side of our mission. We recognize opportunities for technologies to support our daily operations and enhance the experience of those we serve. So CBP Experience, or CBPX, partners with service teams across the agency to understand and address the needs of the people and organizations who interact with CBP more deeply. So one example would be our global entry. So serving over 13 million trusted travelers, global entry continues to grow rapidly among our frequent international travelers. CBPX sought to look at the needs and expectations of CBP officers and the American public and our international to outline the future of global entry. CBPX has hosted, a session with CBP global entry stakeholders to leverage the modern technology, improve standardization, and increase communication to reduce the administrative burden placed on our key stakeholders, thus enhancing the program and improving our customer service. So in addition, using technology, CBP's global entry mobile application uses AI to allow expedited clearance of pre-approved low-risk travelers upon arrival into the U.S. before they enter the federal inspection area. So Global Entry members can also use the new Global Entry touchless portals that we have, which reduces the physical touch points and expedites arrival processing by limiting the paper receipts and protecting our passengers' privacy as well. And I think another one I want to give an example of that everybody hears about is our CBP One app. So this is a free CBP One mobile application which enables our non-citizens without appropriate documents for admission to seek to travel to the United States through certain Southwest borderland ports of entries or POEs, the ability to submit information through a module within the application instead of having to come directly to wait at a port of entry. So use of CBP One streamlines the customer experience at the port of entry by reducing wait times, permits safe and orderly processes of these port of entries for all travelers. Individuals who try to get appointments for Southwest border ports of entry must submit a selfie to ensure the submission is being made by a live person.
Mhm.
So this process uses login.gov for secure private access for submitting non-citizens biographical information and leverages AI for these live photo validation of the travelers to request a date and time to present at these ports of entries.
And if I may, Global Entry also entitles you to TSA PreCheck, right?
Yes.
I got to tell you that is one of the best programs the federal government has ever done. So hats off to you all, and I would advise everyone listening to this show to apply for that program. It's fantastic and very much seamless. So I appreciate
I double that advice.
Don, how about at Equinex? We've heard a lot of different use cases. Again, you're at a point in the juncture here where you're unlocking these capabilities across various agencies. You want to give us a use case or two that you've been able to work with these various agencies to enable some capabilities over there?
Yeah, we actually have a number of really interesting use cases in flight right now. A couple of that come to mind immediately for me is with DHS writ large. And specifically, there's one in particular with CBP. We're also evaluating some approaches with FEMA that was touched on earlier with advanced disaster preparedness. So you think about the ever increasing volume of passenger travel and TSA's responsibility for passenger screening and security. So we're all collectively, and there's a number of different entities involved in this, trying to figure out how to effectively scale the capacity and capabilities of passenger screening, which has traditionally been all self-contained within airports. And so now we're looking at exploring different avenues of how we might be able to centralize, regionally distribute, and centralize the processing of that image data that's captured at the airport. Of course, employing AI to detect anomalies and then create a expedient reporting system. So that's a really interesting one. And talked to Charlie Armstrong, the CIO of FEMA. Have had the unique opportunity to sit down with him a couple of times and talk through some of his concerns and considerations on trying to figure out how FEMA is going to address their mission over the next 5 to 10, 15 years and beyond, with climate change considerations, rising sea levels, underserved communities. There's a lot of different, from a holistic perspective, there's a lot of different data points that FEMA is looking at and factoring into the equation that might not be readily apparent, to someone who's kind of looking at this from a distance. So unique opportunity to kind of get involved and understand some of these challenges and how they're employing data and using it to exceptional utility.
Really do appreciate that. And ironically, Mr. Armstrong, also prior CIO at CBP, so he sort of gets that perspective from various dimensions. Let's talk about, we've talked customer experience primarily about sort of the external customers. Let's give an example, if you will, Lisa. I'm going to ask you, Veterans Affairs. There's thousands and thousands of folks inside of the Veterans Affairs that are providing those goods and service and capabilities to those veterans, millions that you've pointed out. They've got to have a good experience as well. Let's talk about that. You want to give us an example?
Sure. And it will not shock anyone that caring for that many veterans requires a lot of healthcare personnel. So among the VA's employees, we have more than 100,000 healthcare providers. It's not news that one of the biggest things facing the American medical system is provider burnout. I think the AMA recently released statistics that more than 60% of physicians are demonstrating some symptom of provider burnout, which of course impacts their quality of life and their wellness at work, but obviously trickles down to the veterans that they're caring for. So that's something we have a lot of focus on improving. And AI, of course, anything we can do, and AI is definitely one of those tools we're leveraging. Specifically, we're looking at how AI can act sort of as an assistant to those providers. Specifically, that takes the form a lot of reducing the administrative burden, which we know is one of the creators of that burnout. So we've been looking at things like using AI to enable ambient dictation of care interaction. So not kind of this literal transcription, but this dynamic, informed transcription that highlights, patient concerns, requests for tests, prescriptions that are needed, and allowing the provider to, in that moment, focus on the patient, not about taking notes or checking things off on an iPad, really being present with the patient to ensure that they're really making those connections and providing the best care experience we possibly can. And then that functionality after the appointment, the provider can then review the notes that have been provided and make any changes that they need to make, and then move on to the next patient. So in that application, we're hoping that it will show that it lets providers really focus their energy and time on what really matters most, and lets AI step in to support them in the way that's most productive.
Fantastic, and a great use case, and we really do appreciate that. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about AI, ML, and a fantastic set of use cases. We're talking about enabling and unlocking and empowering the federal employees. Kristen, there's no doubt that at Databricks, you're involved with some of these programs that are helping make that happen. You want to give us an example?
Sure. I mean, at a high level, I think everyone's trying to make sure that our law enforcement partners have the data they need to take action in the moment, right? And that starts with being able to leverage structured, unstructured, semi-structured data, being able to leverage computer vision, be able to leverage NLP to do correlation and analysis across multiple data sets, and really be able to share data securely with industry partners, both federal and state and local. And secure data sharing is a critical piece to making sure that law enforcement partners have the most up-to-date real-time data that they need in order to, protect themselves and to take action, swiftly. So, secure data sharing is probably one of the most critical pieces of Databricks, but also I think a big enabler of success across all of our industry partners, both federal, state, and local, and commercial.
No doubt that when they're trying to enable these capabilities and bring these experiences, if you will, to their employees, they must rely on technology such as Databricks. So we do certainly appreciate that. Trang, you gave us a couple of outstanding use cases of using AI to enhance the customer experience externally. You've got a lot of men and women inside the organization fighting the good fight 24/365 as you described. Give us an example of an internal enablement.
Oh, absolutely. So look, as you know, it's no secret that our adversaries are constantly testing us for any vulnerabilities. So we must outpace them. So technology is a proven force multiplier to help us do that. And it has always been. So AI and machine learning are the logical next steps for our investments. So as previously mentioned, big data analytics and AI support not only our external customers, but also support the workforce, which is very critical in my opinion as well. So for example, AI, ML, and big data analytics helps us comb through the vast amounts of data that we have to find anomalies and items of interest in all of our data types. It helps us create these efficiencies for our workforce and reducing redundancies in multiple work areas, as well as automating for them these routine tasks that they perform on a daily basis by our personnel, which then these routine tasks prevents them from doing and focusing on their mission. By automating these with AI, ML, or RPA, it will then allow them to refocus their critical thinking on the important aspects of the mission, such as law enforcement or trade. I think with the leveraging of big data analytics and AI, it is a game changer in helping out not only our external customers, as well as our federal workforce as well.
Okay, we really do appreciate the use of that technology. Don, I'm going to go over to you at Equinix. Let's talk about an example of the use of this capability inside of an agency.
Well, what I'd like to do first is just quickly circle back to a common theme here that's been expressed by all the panelists, which is collaboration. So whether it's intra and or inter-agency collaboration, we're witnessing at Equinix, a growing willingness and capability of collaborating. Just historically speaking, I can recall from my Air Force days, building out a DoD healthcare repository, the complexities that we encountered with data use agreements, obtaining data from different organizations throughout the different branches in the military to create this ad hoc analytics environment. It's a non-trivial affair, but as we're seeing agencies establish their presence at the, if you will, digital cul-de-sac at Equinix, where they're creating these ecosystems, federal healthcare, federal law enforcement, science and technology, and others. It's just really been refreshing and really interesting to watch this matriculate. And I think it's critical to their collective success in being able to do that. Agencies like DHS obviously have multiple components, and they're heavily reliant upon each other to collaborate. And we've seen that firsthand. Likewise, Justice and others. So I think that's sort of an underappreciated aspect of the advancement of AI and bringing extended utility to data.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up and talk about the future. And Don, I'm going to actually start with you, and I want you to paint a picture of the future 2 to 3 years from now. Fast forward, what's it look like out there 2 to 3 years from now?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, with the I'll say relative advent of CDOs, I view as maybe one of the more critical and integral executive leadership roles in organizations moving forward for the 21st century. We in the industry have to understand the CDO's role more effectively, our teams more extensively, in how the engagement model works. Sitting down with the CDO, understanding the strategy. The CDO has so many, as I understand it, humbly stated, a very diverse and multifaceted role with a pretty extensive team. So I think from an industry perspective, if you're looking at this through the lens of an Equinix, one of my team members at Equinix, we have typically been engaged with the networking, the cloud, the security, and other stakeholders in an organization, and we will continue to do that. They're all part and parcel to this discussion, but I think there's going to be a new focus in understanding the CDOs, not only the CDO's role, but the CDO's strategy and how they can leverage these advanced technologies that are rapidly emerging. From an industry perspective, we're actively recalibrating how we accommodate, high dense workloads that are being driven by AI with liquid cooling and other advanced technologies to accommodate this in the foreseeable future. But I think equally important is understanding what those requirements are from the authoritative voices of the CDO.
Really do appreciate that. Monica, we're going to do a little bit of a twofer here. I know you've got a great example of an internal use case that you'd like to cite for us, as you did with what was happening in the state and locals and some of the other activity. And then walk us into the future. What's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now? What's the demand signal going to be as we look out 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, Lisa mentioned leveraging AI to really streamline how VA doctors can review case notes and provide better care. And this really applies to any government agency that's providing citizen services or dealing with case management. So we are seeing generative AI being able to really help provide summary of case notes, make recommendations of other benefits that a citizen may be eligible for to really streamline the processing of cases. So that's a great internal use case that we're seeing many agencies take advantage of today. And, gosh, I've been supporting government for decades with their data challenges, and I've never
Thank you for that.
I've never been more optimistic about how we can leverage data to drive mission outcomes. So my hope is that the arduous part of data is eased with the advent of AI and generative AI. That is that, we can take advantage of AI to drive better data quality and identify anomalies in data earlier in the process, so that government mission is able to leverage AI to really move faster, whether it be to provide healthcare services, secure our country, or support our citizens with benefits, as I mentioned. So I think we're getting there, and I couldn't be more excited about where the future is going.
Monica, we really appreciate what you are doing and everything that Deloitte is doing to unlock these capabilities. Kristen, 2 to 3 years from now, what's it going to look like? You've got some stuff in the Petri dish in the lab there. It's going to come out into full production, full operation. What can we expect to see 2 to 3 years from now? What's the vibe going to be?
Well, we're seeing it today, but I think at massive scale and really the industry standard for all agencies, hopefully will be that the data is all in one place. There's no longer data silos. There's no longer multiple copies of data causing major data integrity issues. That the data is open, available for analysis in real time, and that we're able, as an industry, to leverage these really amazing advancements that are being made in the open source world around llama and machine learning models, and how do we leverage those as an industry to then provide real-time insight and real-time analysis of our customers' data, but with that intense security, that intense governance, that auditability, that lineage that's required in order to prove the trustworthiness of this analysis. We also hopefully we'll see agencies sharing data at scale, again, without having to make multiple copies. They're just providing access to their industry partners, right? So we've solved the data integrity issue. There's governance at scale. There's cost performance there, because we know our partners' budgets are set many years in advance, and they're able to really achieve these mission insights within the confines of what they've been given to work with, not only from a technological standpoint, but also a cost standpoint.
Really do appreciate that, and good catch on the integrity of the data. So important as we look to leverage and use it at scale. Trang, you came up with a variety of fantastic use cases. 2 to 3 years from now, if we fast forward, as a citizen, maybe as an employee, what can we expect to see? We're going to all have global entry. We're going to have touchless entry going through the airports.
I think one of the first things that we have to do is continue addressing some of our key data challenges that we have today. So as Kristen just mentioned, understanding what data sets exist across the organization, ensuring that confidence that the data set can support our needs, and establishing the processes to use and manage that data, as well as continue building a culture of sharing and data knowledge. I think that's first. And second is our continuation of moving into the cloud to platforms that will allow us to dynamically scale according to changing mission needs. And third, as much as we are moving into the cloud, we're also looking to push capabilities to the tactical edge. So what does that mean? So can we make cameras smarter to help our agents? Can we put applications on mobile devices to help them in the field? So as much as we're moving into the cloud, we're looking to push applications and analytics to the edge. And finally, with Zero Trust, we're looking to identify and protect our data assets. We are creating policies and processes for good steward of the public's data. But for all of these areas, Luke, a key aspect for the future is to really think about and plan for the integration of these leading technologies, not as a standalone technology. So the power of integration of these leading technologies will assist us in our mission and bring us together to rapidly respond to our mission needs. And with the emergence and spotlight of AI, data only continues to grow in importance. And as technology progresses and society relies more and more on outputs of AI-enhanced tools, the role and responsibilities of data practitioners will be increasingly important and require extra scrutiny on data quality and accuracy, and ensuring that data visualizations as well are accurately and responsibly reflect what the data reveals.
Really do appreciate that. We certainly look forward to it, and good catch on that data silo issue and enabling and unlocking that capability so that these tools can really be at their best. We appreciate everything that you're doing over there, Trang. Naomi, twofer for you as well. We want to talk about a really cool use case internally, if you will, where you're unlocking some capability and a great experience for your DEA employees. And then walk us into the future, 2 to 3 years from now. What are you expecting? What's that experience going to be like for say a SAC, a diversion employee, a chemist, if you will, at the DEA?
Absolutely. So I think in the future, or at least I would say now, even not short term, it's about giving everybody the right data in the right way at the right time. So our mission is time sensitive, it's global. It's kind of a fun fact, like DEA interacts not just with the 18,000 state, local, tribal, territorial law enforcement agencies, but the entire registrant communities. So we're applying a lot of AI right now, and we're just wanting to grow it and expand it to improve, for example, in our lab system. We have a state-of-the-art, world-class lab system. And then another one is our registrant communities. They want to be able to get their DA registration faster, easier. So how can we leverage AI to kind of produce all of that? I think a CDO of a law enforcement agency, part of what I see serving the public is also supporting open data and data democratization initiatives. So the DEA probably does share a lot of data sets and statistics, and this is a value that's shared by our leadership. So Administrator Milgram has issued, I think it's important, public health alerts that informs the public, things like 7 out of 10 pills tested by the DEA has a potentially fatal dose of fentanyl. This helps parents, kids, families better understand the threat. And thanks to working with the DOJ's Office of the Chief Information Officer, we actually just finished a DOJ data challenge that invited the public to utilize our data and provide us with insights to better inform our nation's public safety response to drug overdoses. So these type of opportunities bring us closer to communities. Within the federal government, I think collectively vibing on everybody's answers, CDOs are instrumental at building community and finding ways for cross-agency collaboration. So at DOJ, the OCIO has established communities of interest. This really draws personnel from across the department for knowledge sharing, training, further collaboration. Within the DEA, we do our best to support the department and our partners. And in fact, actually, CBP and DEA are working together on numerous initiatives, including sharing solutions to similar challenges and sharing training. So as AI advances through different levels of intelligence, I think it becomes more critical to foster this culture of community and collaboration to keep pace with the rapid advancement of technology, because at the heart, the most powerful part of the government is its people. So we need to ensure our workforce is prepared and confident in understanding of the opportunities and limitations of emerging technology, because only then can we utilize technology to its fullest potential. I think effectively training our teams to work in tandem with their AI counterparts will have a network effect that will increase their productivity and enable the government to better meet the needs of those who matter most, which is the American public.
And look, on behalf of every DEA employee, every DEA customer, and your leadership across the CDO community, we certainly do appreciate it. Lisa, take us home here. Fast forward 2 to 3 years from now, we've got millions of veterans out there. Their experiences are getting better and better over time. Telemedicine, we've had some folks on the show talking about things of that nature. You're talking about the internal customers, the doctors, et cetera. What are you expecting 2 to 3 years from now? What's your target out there?
Yeah, I think I see us hitting our stride really with the balance between this excitement about what these technologies can provide, but also the governance aspect to make sure we're implementing them responsibly. And I think that's really where we're going to kind of normalize the implementation of AI. To others' point, it won't be different or special anymore. It'll be part of our portfolio. We've had a lot of great results using AI tech sprints to empower innovation and really bring in these new and vibrant ideas into VA. Most recently, we had one that focused on provider burnout and yielded some really great results. We were very happy to have 150 teams competing, and we're going to be launching a pilot in one of those areas in the future. So that's been a great source of innovation. But on the backside of that, we also have to make sure that there's governance in place. Governance that is rigorous, but also flexible. We don't want to be a bottleneck. We don't want to stop innovation, but we do need to make sure that we're implementing trustworthy AI, that we're implementing things that are safe and effective, that we're valuing veteran data privacy, and that we're really transparent with our veterans on how AI is impacting their healthcare. And so I think that balance is going to be something we're going to continually work for, but I really see us hitting our stride in the next couple of years.
Can't thank all of you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us on this program. I'd like to thank all the sponsors for supporting us on this show. I want to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I want to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.